What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Writers Room podcast, and thanks for joining us on the epic adventure we call writing. We're your hosts, Bob Adato,
Holly Robilliard,
and Austin Matthews.
And today we're going to talk about what to expect at a writers' conference with Bryan Mitchell. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Bryan, where can we find you?
Well, you can find me on my website at bryantimothymitchell.com. That's Bryan with a Y. And I also have social media everywhere else. Also Amazon. You can follow me there. I'm a little bit here, a little bit there. You can find me. Follow the show notes. I'm around.
There you go.
All right, sweet. Do you have any books out? Tell us all about yourself. Who's the writer, Bryan Mitchell?
Well, my very first book that came out is Infernal Fall. It's a retelling of Dante's Inferno. Not really a retelling, but it takes place in the same story world, obviously. But I was thinking, what would happen if someone fell into hell and it was exactly like Dante wrote it? So I went with that and had a lot of fun along the way, meeting excellent characters as I went. One is Heartless Charles. He's kind of like Virgil, but not so trustworthy, hence the name Heartless Charles. And there's Daniel, who is a U.S. Army veteran, and there's Bo, who is a shadow man who's coming in to try to help him. And then you have all the normal characters you have in Dante's work, such as Greek characters, and you have the big bad meanies, those devious devils, all those guys that are part of Dante's world as well.
So this was, now I was there at Realmmakers 2023, and you won, what was the award for? Or a couple of awards.
It was the best cover, which was really nice. And we also have the one for best horror, best Christian horror. And that sounds crazy. Some people think of Christian horror as like, what in the world is that? Is that an oxymoron? But truly, if you think about it, one of the most horrifying novels ever is Christian based. That's Dante's Inferno. So it seemed like it made sense, especially in the definition that Realmmakers has as horror. But they combined three categories for this specific award. It is for horror, supernatural, and paranormal. So it's a subgenre fantasy. So best subgenre. It was really fun to get those awards. I was ecstatic to be nominated because there's a lot of great writers at Realmmakers, and to actually walk away with 2 awards and be nominated for 3 was like, whoa.
What was the third one?
Amazing.
The third one was best debut, and that was definitely way cool to be part of that too. And I got to know a lot of those authors who were nominated, and very talented folks as well, because you're scoping out like, well, let's see what this guy's got. Whoa, that's really nice. This is good stuff. And then next thing you know, you're purchasing it and you're reading it and you're rooting for them, not just yourself, but there's all that nervous energy for yourself, but also you're like, well, they're great too. And if they win, I'm so happy for them too. And it's good work. So
yeah, right on. Now, are you working on anything else? Is there a sequel to this, like he gets out, or we're not going to do any spoilers, actually. We're not going to talk about that. But I don't know. Is there anything you're working on?
Well, you mentioned spoilers. See, Dante spoiled his work with the title, The Divine Comedy, because he knows it's got to end well. Yeah. So on the cover of mine, I have Never Lose Hope. Never lose hope. I'm not wearing my glasses, and how did I forget my own tagline there? That's like the biggest thing I contributed besides my name and the title to the cover. But yeah, never lose hope, which in Dante's Inferno is like abandon all hope. And I'm like, well, hold on now. Let's settle down. Let's not freak out. Let's not lose any hope just because we're in a bad situation. Yeah, the world's on fire and all that, but
Yeah.
calm down. So yeah, there is another one that follows up naturally. It is Almost Paradise. And of course, um, it is a fun story. And I have another cool tagline, which is harder to fly than to fall, which I felt went pretty well with
Oh,
Almost Paradise. Because we're getting a little bit closer to paradise, but you can't quite just jump up there and keep going. And
right.
yeah, it's just harder. Gravity
S-
does its thing.
Same character?
Same characters, a lot more development on some of these guys. That we get to learn a little bit more about some of the main characters of Infernal Fall. They have there's more of a screw tape letters feel to this one, and even in the first one there's a lot of the Great Divorce in it, because I base Limbo on C.S. Lewis's Greytown and the Great Divorce. I actually named the town that he goes to in Limbo Greyton, as a little nod to that story, because I thought it was so great. Even have a bus stop there. I mean, goodness, I couldn't
Wow.
simmer down on that at all. But book two, he's we have characters that are in the supernatural world, and they can see what we're doing. We can't see what they're doing. So they do little things to influence us. They're trying to do things. They're like whispering things and saying things, and maybe it gets to us, maybe it doesn't. Like Daniel's father is an alcoholic, and something that there's still a demon that's around him, hanging around, trying to get him to have another drink of alcohol. And things he says doesn't affect his father at all, but he's probably hearing it, but he's not reacting to it. So, and only certain people can see these things in the story. So, fun stuff. I had a lot of fun with that book. I mean, a lot of my humor is in Almost Paradise. There's a little less humor in Infernal Fall, but I do have moments of levity, because there's moments when I was like, okay, this is such a downer. Can we just kind of do something a little fun here? So
Yeah.
there's like one particular moments that's really Monty Python-esque scene in there, and I just had so much fun at it, because I was about to go off on hypocrites in this one trench, because there's just like another nod to Dante. They couldn't go across the bridge because it was knocked down ages ago when Jesus went through. And so they get to the same bridge and like, oh, I'm gonna have to climb down and go up the other side. And when they get into the pit with the hypocrites, I was just gonna just take them to school. And I just said, you know what? Let's just have some fun. I mean, they're hypocrites, and it was so much fun. So they are always pointing at each other, and it was just so much fun. And
Good.
yeah, moments of levity.
Yeah. Good. That's awesome. All right, so we're going to talk about writers' conferences. That's something we haven't really discussed. We're talking usually about the craft of writing, but as a writer, it would, I think, behoove you to go to at least one writers' conference, right? Brian, what would be, like, let's just pretend we're new. I've been to a lot. I've been to maybe a dozen. So I know I've learned a lot of different things, but like, let's say someone's new and they don't know why should pretend I'm new? Why is it taking so long for me to even talk sentences?
Well,
Just
I
like,
am
it's
new,
just like
so
writing.
why should
Okay,
I go?
there you go, Austin. Why should Austin go to a writers conference?
Well, if you're serious about growing as a writer, that's what you have to do, really. You got to be around other writers, and other writers are readers. And you need to also keep in mind that it's an opportunity to open doors. I mean, if you don't find that agent that you're hoping to land with, which is not always going to happen. I mean, they're highly selective, and you may not meet up with the publisher you want to meet up with, but you'll get to meet other writers, and some of them will be known writers, others will be just like you, starting out. But you're also all there to learn and grow and network, and that's what it's all about. I mean, that's one of the key things that you'll get out of a writers conference. And one thing I know will be on your mind, especially if it's the first time, is the cost. And if you're really taking this seriously as a business approach, you can think about possibly having a business account for yourself, and you can write those kinds of things off on taxes. So
Yes.
I know it's kind of scary. Well, it's this costly. It's going to cost me a lot of money. But if you're being smart about it, you can budget it and also look forward to that tax return, get some of that back, and just keep going
Mhm.
that way. That's how I approached it.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, like, what kind of price point are you looking at for like a typical conference?
Well, I don't want to spend too much. My first writer conferences that I went to were all virtual, and
Mhm.
I'm fine with sitting in front of a computer and doing and learning that way. It's a lot less personable. Like it's you really get to know people a lot more when you're there in person. But if
Mm.
you're really on a budget and you're just not sure, a virtual style is a lot less cost efficient. I can't remember how much it was for me. It was during COVID when I went to my first writers conference, and I did two that year. I did ACFW or ACWF. I might be getting that a little mixed up, but and I did Realm Makers. I did both of those, and they were both priced really nicely for a virtual conference. And then the following year, I just did Realm Makers, and that was under $600 for the registration, and then there's other costs that you have to incorporate as well. So for me, anything that's under uh, $700 for a writers conference is definitely reasonable. If it's above that, I will be like, okay, who's here?
And that's
And
part of it too. Like the bigger the names, then the higher the price is going to go. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's true.
mm,
But
mm.
I think, yeah, I started going in 2017, and I think I paid like, it was definitely less than 200, 225, somewhere around there. So it's not too much if you want to save up, but yeah, I mean, there's obviously there's authors there. Like you get to talk to somebody else because usually we're pretty new. I mean, we're still pretty new. All of us are still relatively new. That was your first book, Brian, that you won, right?
Yeah,
They
yeah.
wrote, yeah, and I did the same thing the previous year. So I mean, we're all pretty new here. So it's always better, I feel, first to be kind of humble enough to like, okay, I don't know everything. I need to learn something. And you can open up a book or you can watch some YouTube, and it's great. But having somebody there in front of you talking and making, like you said, making some contacts, making some friends, huge difference, right?
Mhm.
So is this more like what would a day look like, for example? Just so we can see the difference between going to like a writers conference and going to a writers convention. Like, is it broken down into small classes? Is it more like lecture style? What would a day look like?
There's the ones that I've been to, there's a mix of classes. You can set up appointments. The appointments usually cost a little bit extra. At all the other ones I've been to, you'd make an appointment with an agent or a writing guru who's going to help you solve all your writing problems in 30 minutes. Yeah.
Isn't
So
that the dream?
yeah, that's a dream. But really it's throughout the day. You'll have your itinerary. And if you've signed up and you're all set, you already know the schedule, and it's full day schedules. And one thing that you definitely would want to take into account is the fact that sometimes lunch, if you're going to go somewhere off-site for lunch, where even on-site, you may have time getting back to that classroom, which is why I really appreciate what Rim Makers does. they allow the videos to be shown later. Other conferences do the same. So if you're feeling a little pushed and you're really wanting to catch that next class at 1 o'clock, and but yet you really want to eat that cheeseburger that you ordered and it's not there yet,
Yeah.
you can stay for the cheeseburger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually you show up like and they'll have like a speaker, kind of like a rah-rah, and then there's breakout rooms, breakout sessions, which you had already signed up for beforehand, like, oh, I'm interested in this one, that one. And then, like you said, if there's other authors or other, because they'll have agents, they'll have publishers there that you can pitch to, and I thought it's very exciting because like I was one of the guys at the table that was just helping people like schedule their, oh, this is, you go into this room or that room to talk to this person for the pitch, and they're all nicely dressed, it's so fun, because like yesterday they had their Star Wars shirt, today they've got a tie, they've got a nice business dress, because they're just trying to, it's very exciting. But yeah, so you can do that, and then there's more stuff, more breakout sessions, and then there's usually in the evening there's like a dinner and a fun thing, like at Realm Makers there's a costume party kind of thing, like right at the end, and it's a lot of fun. It's like a big deal. It's a very big production, very professional, and then whoever wants to dress up, and then they all get to go and up on stage and show their costume and clap, and it's a lot of fun. It's a blast.
Yeah, it sure is. And then there's a whole vendor aspect to it, because if you go to a writers conference, there's going to be books. And what would a writers conference be without books everywhere? So if you signed up for a table or not, or maybe your publisher has a table, you can, there's a section where, at least at Realm Makers, there's a section where you can have your books displayed, and the store for Realm Makers will take care of that. Yeah, that's always fun. Because I've met so many people in where all the books are. I mean, that's kind of like where everybody navigates to. It's like a magnetic force drawing us closer, ever so closer. We're all just mesmerized by all the books and all the nice good things and all the great people. So yeah, it's just so amazing how these things come together. Honestly, I mean, we take over a hotel basically, and that's with any conference that you're going to. I've been to DEF CON, which is a huge hacker convention in Las Vegas every year, and it's huge. It's like over various different casinos. Like if you're going to go to like the application security class, it's going to be maybe maybe a couple of blocks away from where you are. So those are huge, but writers conferences thankfully aren't necessarily that huge. I mean, it's just maybe you have to go to the other side of the hotel to get to your class, and you have to just stop at the water fountain real quick before you get there. But the way that these big conglomerate conferences take over a hotel is just amazing. It's just like I don't know, it becomes your home away from home. Your family is right there, and if it's your first time, it's like, welcome to the family. Come on, let's put on a smile and don't be nervous, because everyone's been nervous. We all know what it feels like to be nervous, and even though you have all that, just know that everyone is rooting for you, even though they don't know you. They want what's best for you as well as what's best for them. We're all in it together. So these places, I think, are really filled with magic. The first one I ever went to, I had this crazy experience. Like I had all that anxiety. Like, man, what am I doing? I brought my family up here to New Jersey, in Jersey City, right here in a casino. My dad's in the casino, going crazy, having fun at the slots, and here I am, nervous about meeting people, and I went to bed that night feeling like I was like way out of my league, because big crazy hotel, and here I am. And I remember in the middle of the night, the neighbors got in a crazy argument. They were fussing and fighting. The guy just out of nowhere, the man was like, "You make me want to jump off a cliff." And I was sitting there saying to myself, why say that? That's just not a very good dialogue. And the wife was like, "What am I supposed to say to that?
Yeah.
Go then, go jump off a cliff." And I'm like, who are these folks? And my wife and I were just like, well, let's try to go back to bed. And I went back I woke up the next day, and then it was James L. Rubar. He was giving his he was the keynote that year, and he was doing the pre-conference class, and I was in there with it. And I had already met him virtually, so I got to talk to him finally for the first time in person, which was great. And I still had all these nerves and stuff. And lo and behold, the thing he had to say this particular conference was jump off a cliff and spread your wings and start to fly. And here I am, like all this nervous energy I'm feeling. And dude, man with the bad dialogue was telling me beforehand that I need to jump off a cliff. Just jump off the cliff. And here's James L. Rubar telling me to jump off a cliff. It's like one of those things where, like, I feel like God is saying, calm down, Bryan. Just go with it. You'll be all right. Jump off the cliff. And I am kind of scared of heights, so I hope that was not.
Gosh, that's funny. Now you said you're in New Jersey.
I was in New Jersey for that writers
okay.
conference. I live in North Carolina.
Oh, that's still over there. That's still on the East Coast.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Holy mollies! Well, thank you for joining us so late. Yeah, we
this
just
is fine.
our other guest was from New Jersey. So anyway, just wondering.
Yeah, I feel like that's a really hard thing for a lot of people, right? Especially for new writers, because you have that imposter syndrome going on and you think that nobody wants to read your stuff and no one's going to care, especially at big venues like that. Even if the conference is a little smaller, at big venues, it adds up, right? And so I feel like that could probably be so overwhelming for people their first time, but you have to remember that everyone else has been exactly where you are, right?
Yes.
Everyone else is freaking out. You know, whether they look like they're freaking out or whether they look like they're totally fine, they're not fine. They're also freaking out, you know, and you have to go because again, like that's how you better yourself as a writer, right? That's how we grow as people, how we grow as writers. You have to grow just like our characters do. So
but I don't want to go on a hero's journey.
Yeah, so that's why you should go to a writers conference, to learn, to grow, to make connections. What are some other, I don't know, any other funny stories or fun experiences we've had going to a writers conference?
So I'm wondering as well, like, do they have, so I'm assuming that they would be like genre specific, right? Like there's not really, I mean, maybe there is, you know, big conferences that are just generally about writing, but I'm assuming that's something that people should really look into is which ones are more genre focused, right? Especially if you're intending to like pitch to an agent or
yes, that's
or whatever.
True. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, you definitely want to think about that, which is why Railmakers is such a good fit for what I do. There's not very many. There's plenty of writers conferences that focus on speculative fiction, but with a Christian worldview from the author, that's even more of a pinpoint target audience, and that's where I think you really want to really get that strong foundation with is what you're writing in. If you're writing mysteries, you definitely want to go to a mystery writers conference. If it's even more specific, definitely go for that. Because I mean, I think what sells the most nowadays seems to be like romance. So if you go to a romance writers conference, I mean, I imagine that you probably want some even more specific than just romance because there's so many out there. So yeah, I haven't looked into those at all, but I do think about what I might need to do considering romance in my own stories, which is kind of off topic. Because every now you need a little bit, there's little bits of everything and a novel. I mean, you got to have your twists and turns. You're going to have enough mystery to keep people intrigued, and you got to have relationships. And that's something that I feel like I could grow in. I don't know if I can just sit down and read a bunch of romance novels, but I can.
You don't want, I mean, whether it's, a traditional romance novel or just something, relationship based, like,
Yeah,
you
relationship
could throw a little
based.
bit of Nicholas Sparks in your epic fantasy. It's fine.
Yeah, get that in there.
Yeah.
Have just the main thing is being true to your writing style, and if you have that, if those kinds of elements come into your stories, you got to find it. And if you happen to have a local writers conference near you, there might be a workshop on that, and that might be something that maybe you're not so interested in the specific local writers workshops, but you might find something there, a class or two that is very helpful. So yeah, well, I go out for room makers and stuff. I don't oftentimes go to the writers conferences that are right around town for me, but I might want to venture out to them a little bit more. I've been thinking about that more often because there's always something to learn, and they're less cost involved when when it's local,
Right. Yeah.
and they're everywhere. I mean, you don't have to go across the country every
Right.
time for a writers conference. There's probably many in your hometown that you
Yeah.
don't know about. Yeah.
Now, I will say, obviously, Realm Makers is, spec fix, so fantasy. I mean, there's everything there. Anything to do with fantasy or paranormal, supernatural, it's all there. But I'm thinking of the classes, the breakout sessions, they were very generalized. It was, how to write a fight scene, or, how to market your book better, or, just very like anyone, you would, like we're talking about, you could be a mystery writer and like, well, there's nothing else around here, I'm just going to go to this. You'll still learn stuff.
Yeah, I think I saw one on the docket or the like planned schedule for this year. So there was something about graphic novels and stuff and like writing to prepare for that. And I'm like, that's a really cool sounding
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's just like everyone there is going to be a super nerd. It's everyone's gonna be rocking the Chewbacca t-shirt or the Doctor Who stuff or whatever. But there should be, I don't know. Yeah, like no matter where you go, yeah. I even like we're talking about, you go to a romanticy conference, they're going to have the same stuff, like how to write a character, or how to have a character arc, or how to write a better villain, kind of thing. So yeah.
Do they do things like have you do little exercises and stuff like that? Like they'll give you, I don't know, a few words and then tell you to, make a story out of like using these elements or things like that? Like, what style of classes, or I guess it would just depend on what sort of conference you go to.
It depends on the instructor. I got a lot of good information. I cannot say his name right, but he was writing on the elements of story, and I thought it was a fantastic class last year at Realm Makers. And I have his book
The
on
older guy, right? The older guy with I remember.
David. Oh goodness, it
I
was
have this book right
here. He did an amazing class, and it was just straight up lecture. And I got all my notes on the phone because I didn't bring any paper with me because I know myself, I don't do well with paper notes. But I took great notes and I learned so much. And it seemed like he went over everything that I could possibly think of, like a very good overarching everything you need to know for a story, from characters, prose, all this stuff. And I got so much out of it. But there's other classes where they were doing a little bit more workshop stuff, and they're like, okay, take 15 minutes and get to it, and we'll get back together. And if you're in the virtual session, you're like, well, golly, I guess I'll go make a sandwich. I cheat on virtual conferences, like, oh, tell me to write, I'm at home in my pajama pants.
Never know.
Yeah.
It's more comfortable.
Yeah.
Was it Stephen James' Story Trump Structure? That's the book I wrote. Or was it Donald Moss?
It wasn't Donald Moss, but Donald Moss, he did series characters last year. And I remember because I showed up late after having my cheeseburger. And I learned so much from Donald Moss, and it was so fun to get to know him a little bit. And Stephen James, I took part in his novel writing intensive. That was extremely helpful for me. I'm wanting to look up this guy now because I cannot remember his name. So I'm going to kind of step back into the shadows.
No, you're still there. But yeah, I remember taking this lady named Jill Williamson. She did a class on world building. That was my first ever writing conference, my first ever breakout session. And yeah, she had us, like, she went down the bullet points and had us kind of sort of creating, a very basic world, that involved different things.
Yeah, the world building classes. I remember getting hands on in 2 years ago at Rim Makers in a class. And I remember I was explaining Infernal Fall to some folks, and the first crowd was kind of like, they seemed so put back and shocked and afraid from what I was saying that I was like, I apologized to them. But I went to another group and they were like, so cool, that's great, that's wild.
Yeah.
And I was like, goodness.
And
Found some people.
they're the ones that voted you in.
Yeah, they enjoyed it. But I wish I could. I hate to forget this guy's
No, that's
because I
okay.
learned so much from him in that class. I just remember his name is David, and he has a great story. Operation Grendel is the name of his book that came out, and he is just like Daniel Schwaber.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
So
that
I
sounds
was saying
familiar.
David, how dare, sorry,
How dare
Daniel.
you.
It's okay.
But
We're only human.
yeah.
Yeah.
Learned a lot from his class, but there's great people. Like this year's there's going to be Alan Arnold, and his talks are usually just always tends to put me in a state where I feel like I've just gotten a little closer to God because he's got me thinking and ways where God is writing with me. And that's kind of his thing. He has a book out called The Story of With, and that's a really interesting allegory, the way he wrote that. I haven't read it all. I've read a good portion of it, but not all of it. So he's going to be there, and Bob mentioned Carla. She's the one who does the fight right, and she's a lot of fun. Everyone, I mean, she's just who she is. She doesn't go out of her way to be funny. She's just who she is, and everyone has a ton of fun with her in the class.
Yeah.
And the other keynote for this year is the CEO of Soma Games, and that's going to be interesting because there's a little bit more connecting with the gaming conferences in the years to come with Realm Makers. So
That's cool.
this thing is kind of turning into a great big transforming Autobot thing. We're all going to unite and
Yeah, and I think that's such a fun crossover, especially it's like it's getting easier to develop indie games and do indie publishing. And so I think there's a lot of room for crossover there. And like whether it's, hooking up like an indie author with an indie game publisher or those kind of things, or just learning how to do it yourself. Like it's really not that hard with a lot of it to just like plug and play, drop some stuff in, and suddenly you have like an RPG where you can have the people, like instead of having readers, you just have them dropped into your story, into your world. Yeah, it's fascinating. That's cool to see that it's going in that direction for Realm Makers.
yeah, I'm interested. I'm definitely interested.
I feel like a conference sounds like it would be very beneficial for someone as well who is experiencing writer's block or who is feeling a little bit discouraged or isn't really sure. You know how sometimes we just get stuck and we don't feel like writing and we don't really know what to write about and we just need something to inspire us. I feel like a writer's conference would, be a great place for that because you're surrounded by people who are going through what who have gone through what you're going through, and they're supportive, and there's so many great ideas floating around that something will nudge you in the right direction.
Yeah, and I'm one of those guys that I usually volunteer in the what's the coffee break room, or there's a name for it up there. But I love talking to new people that never been there before. I ask them what their book is about. Oh, blah blah blah, and I'm just like encouraging them like crazy because I want them because the truth is, yeah, somebody's going to be so excited to find their book and to read it, and you know, so what is it? Somebody can't wait to read your book, you know. So you gotta finish it, and but yeah, there's this like this. What I love is this creative energy, and it was kind of the same way with San Diego Comic Con before they went like all movies and games and stuff. But there's this like I just love the creative energy there, where all of us are creatives. You know, we're all like creating worlds and just building, and we're not sure. Kind of like Holly, what you're talking about. Like I see it, but I don't know. Is this possible? And yeah, absolutely. I know Roadmakers is a great place. Probably other places are just fantastic for like absolutely. This is totally possible. You've got to write this. You know, that's always been you know my motto there. Yeah, just somebody can't wait to read your book.
So if somebody is new coming in and going to their first conference, is there certain things that you feel like they need to be prepared to go? Like, do they need to have their own writer's website or like an author's website, or do they need to have, you know, a partially finished manuscript, or what sort of things should they have in their back pocket when they go? Or is there any one thing?
There's all those things are great. And I think it also depends on where you're at too. If you have business cards and you don't really have anything to send anybody other than your email address and your phone number, maybe save the business cards for next time. I didn't do business cards last year. I decided I'd just give out bookmarks. And I feel now like maybe I should have just did business cards, because everybody was asking me for business cards.
Yeah.
Like, where's your business cards? I'm like, hey, I got bookmarks. And I ran out so early. And like, they're kind of like looking at me like, you're supposed to bring business cards.
Well, like, a business card is also a bookmark.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's what I have. Yeah, I made a bookmark that's a business
nice.
card.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
There you go. Yeah,
That's a little
that's really nice.
The QR code and
the
everything.
QR code in the back. Yeah, it takes us to
Yeah.
my website.
Yeah,
So
that's how you want to do it. And it's so easy to make that happen now. So if you don't have a website or you don't have a Amazon page, what I would encourage anyone to do is to start some kind of free blog or something. Send somebody to where they can see what you got going on, and sign up for a newsletter. Because those can be free too, as long as if you have a whole lot of folks, you're in another situation. But and that's a good situation to be in. Like right now, I don't have so many where I have to pay for my subscribers list. So you want to have something that can send them to subscribe to your newsletter, or just go to your blog if that's what you're doing, or even to your wherever you're doing most of your stuff. Have something ready for that, and get their business cards, and just be friendly and happy. Bring a smile, and be prepared to learn and be open to criticism, because criticism's hard sometimes. Like it can make you feel sometimes if someone's hard on you, and maybe they're hard on themselves and they don't even realize how hard they're being on you. And you're in a particular moment of vulnerability, and you're just like, I don't want to hear anybody tell me I write bad. You know, you might be there. You just understand that it's all good. Some people are a little bit tougher than others on these things, and take what you can out of any given session of criticism. And that's what I did, and I feel it's helped me a lot. And I've walked away from criticism like, whoa, what in the world was that? It's all out of love. Like, even when those moments happen, it's like those were like friends of mine, and I felt like they really helped me. But I was also like in total disagreement of what they were. Total disagreement. But I was nodding. And, yeah, I'll do what I can. I'll see I'll think about that. I'll go back and reread everything and make a decision.
Yeah, and I will say, like, you're so right about criticism coming out of love, because it's easier to not criticize. Like, to go through and actually criticize is really hard, and it's a difficult practice on both ends. And so, like, I used to teach high school English, and so before we'd start like our first round of critiques, I had my students watch Simon Cowell tear somebody apart on American Idol, and I was like, listen, this looks harsh, but he's the first person to love this person enough to tell them that they are not doing as good as they could or as good as they think they're doing. And that's what love looks like. It might not feel good,
Yeah.
but that is love. And it's, you know, it's how we grow.
That's the truth. Truth is love, and that's it
Mhm.
can be hard.
I think that's something from our writing group that's been really nice as well, is starting to understand that not everyone gives and receives criticism the same way. And so you have to be conscious of that, that the way that you like to receive criticism is maybe not the way that somebody else likes to get it. And so, you know, it's things like that that just make you a little bit more aware, and allow you to grow in a way that you can make criticism to different people in an appropriate way. I know for me, like I have really thick skin, so I'll take like you can just rip it apart and I'll be like, all right, back to the drawing board we go. You know, but someone else might be like, that's my whole life's work.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So just being able to understand that and realize that and just accept the criticism, like you said.
And there's also the part where it's might just be one person too. That's
Mhm.
what James L. Rubar had told me about Infernal Fall. And I was telling him what another person he said, and he said he just kind of shakes his head and he's like, "That's just one person." I'm like, "Oh yeah, you're right. That's just one
Yeah.
person. It's only one
true.
person who said that." So I could take it like not everybody's going to love what you write. That's another thing. Like I looked at Brandon Sanderson's criticisms on Goodreads, and some of them decided I think they're just trying to be cool and trendy, giving one
Yeah.
star
Right.
on Brandon Sanderson's work, and like, how dare you?
Yeah.
But if Brandon Sanderson can take it and all that, I mean, of course, I can take a 1 star and a harsh review, even though I may not agree with what the person said about Brandon Sanderson's stuff. Maybe I'm not seeing exactly what the issue is the person saw about what I'm writing. So there is a time when I would say if it's someone, if you took a critique from someone, if you paid for a critique, take it all in because that's a professional that
Yeah.
you paid
That's
money for a
true.
reason to get that feedback from a person. But if it's another person who's a peer, take it with a grain of salt sometimes. And but if others are if you're in a writing group and they're like, yeah, I can see that, then you know that you're on to something. But if others are like kind of kind of get a feeling, then
Yeah.
maybe you don't have to go back and rewrite everything on that particular thing before submitting. Because sometimes I feel like we can over edit sometimes. And
Mm.
when you're on the 63rd edition, it's the time when you have to say, maybe it's time for me to move on to story and call it a night on this one.
Yeah.
So that's something just to consider with criticism, and we get that when you're among writers at writers conferences, you have folks who've read your story and they're going to have nice things to say about it. And I don't think I, with novel being so young, I haven't had enough people come up to me and like just rip it in front of me. I would think that would be so neat though, for someone to come and just rip on my work at a writers conference. That would be, I would, that would be kinda,
Hey,
that'd be
you know
funny.
what?
That's like a scene in a book. Actually, I'm gonna have to write this down. That would be so fun.
Oh yeah, and you know what? If somebody comes up to you that like read your book and has some really harsh criticisms, you can just look at them and be like, "Thank you
Yeah.
for your purchase."
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I like
and
that
it's
idea, Brian, because
yeah.
I'm thinking of, I think it was TikTok where I saw this, where somebody, I think she was making fun of her own book cover,
Mhm.
and just how ridiculous it looked. And other people were like, "Hey, can you do my book cover?" And she kept doing it, but they want that. They want like this ridiculous, like, look at this guy just standing there, or the trope of historical fiction where there's always a lady walking away from you, and it's like that's all it is for that genre. It's so hilarious. But anyway, it'll be funny, yeah, just to sit at the table. Yeah, I will tear apart your story,
That would be
50
fun.
cents. Yeah, just be
Yeah.
funny about it. Not be mean, but just be like, you're gonna burn all this, right, later. This is a joke, right? No,
That would
but
be funny.
I think that'd be fun. Geez, I would do that
Yeah.
in a heartbeat, honestly.
Yeah, give
Yeah.
terrible synopses of people's
Yeah.
works.
Yep. That would be so funny. But anyway, good idea.
Mm-mm-mm.
All right.
Now, one of the things that I had thought about mentioning about writers' conferences, things to bring, um, besides business cards and maybe taking notes. I just used my phone last time, but looking back, I haven't really looked at those notes enough. Maybe I don't do paper notes very well. Uh, I like to be in the moment, be cognizant of what I'm learning. And a lot of times when I'm taking notes, I tend to miss a lot of the details, overarching things. I'm hoping that it's working like martial arts. Like you take all these martial arts classes and are in military training. When I was in the military, we do all this stuff and we hope that it's like muscle memory and that it comes to us when the time is right. But especially if you're early on, another thing that you can do is look. A lot of these folks who are instructing you have already written books on writing. Stephen James, for example, has a few books. Donald Moss has some books. I haven't read his yet. I plan to read those because he talked about something that I found fascinating on Stephen James's podcast, which was microtension, as far as keeping the reader's attention, keeping them engaged. And like, oh, that's very interesting. But I never really got into reading it. He told me which book I should look at and all that. And I'm like, yeah, I'll do that. And yeah, I still haven't, but I've read Stephen James and a couple others, but you can usually find these guys online and find what they've written about whatever they're teaching, whether it's story building, character development, plot, trump structure, um, whether pantser. There's so many things. Oh man, it's just like overall so many things we can go through when it comes to writers conferences and all the things there is to learn. Man, simmer down.
No, that's good. I was gonna say an added bonus is getting autographs from authors. It's so fun. I got Brian's book. He signed a copy of my book. It's just that's the most fun, talking to other authors and you get excited. Oh my gosh, that's awesome! Can you sign it? And they sign it and they put your name. Oh my gosh, I have a whole collection. It'll be worth like thousands later. That's so fun.
I got a fun story about Stephen James actually. On the way to Realm Makers. See, I had already attended a novel writing intensive, and everyone who I'm a part of a word readers group locally as well. And it's like, well, Stephen James is going to be there. Well, he doesn't remember anybody, but you can just tell him you were in a novel writing intensive with him, and he'll know what you're talking about. Like, yeah. And on the way to Realm Makers, I get on the bus from the airport, and there's nobody on it but me and my wife. And then out of nowhere, in plops Stephen James with his big old bag, his satchel, and he's all disheveled from the traveling. Like, oh, Stephen James, how's it going? And I went like, I didn't want to be too intrusive and just pounce on him and then just dog him to death all the way to the location, to the hotel. But we got to chatting, and he actually remembered giving me a 50-page critique on Infernal Fall years ago. He specifically remembered Heartless Charles because he was a dapper demon. And that was one thing that he mentioned. He's like, I do love dapper demons, he mentioned in the critique. And he's like, yeah, you had the dapper demon. I just thought it was so cool that I had Stephen James there for about 10 minutes on the way to the hotel, and we managed not to make it too awkward. Being the only 3 people on the bus besides the driver, he was just kind of hanging out. But my wife and I sitting across from Stephen James on the way there. That was just another fun conference thing. And then pulling up and looking outside, seeing Carrie Neats there and other folks. And I'm like, well, here we are. We made it home. It's so cool. And that's another cool thing about writers' conferences. After you've been, it's kind of like a home away from home. So when you get there and you start seeing the familiar faces, like, yeah, it's just like yesterday. It's been a minute, but yeah, we're back at it.
Yeah. Realm Makers is going to be July, so realmmakers.com maybe is a website. If anybody wants
I think
to.
so.
You can sign up there still.
Yeah. So that's July something. I'll be in St. Louis again. Real nice place. I love the hotel. A little warm for my taste, a little humid, but that's okay. just a few days. So, but yeah, so that'd be good. Hopefully, some people will sign up. So now's our time for our don'ts. Don't do this when at a writers' conference. I just say all of a sudden the flood of different don'ts come into my head.
I mean, there's all sorts of things not to do
Yeah,
at a conference.
I know. Don't be an ass. No, but
That
yeah,
is one.
yeah,
That is one.
that is definitely that should be rule number one. So yeah, don't do this. I would have to say, don't. I know this is what their topic is, what to expect, but I would almost say don't have any expectations, because especially if you're ready to go and you brought your manuscript and you've made appointments and maybe this sounds heartbreaking and that, but hey, it's my opinion, so I don't care. But like, I want to say don't expect everyone to go, oh my gosh, this is it, book of the year, let's do this, because you're gonna get kicked in the shins. Okay, just go there and like we're talking about, just have a humble attitude, and it's cool to have that kind of confidence and like, hey, I'm ready to find an agent for this. I'm ready to get this published. That's fine. You do need that, but I would just be ready. You know what I mean? Like I said, don't come with expectations like it's gonna happen. People are gonna sign you up. Just if it happens, great. But otherwise, just take the direction, because all these agents, they're gonna flip through it. They're gonna flip through your manuscript, the first few pages, or they're gonna hear, whatever, and they're already gonna know whether it's marketable. Unfortunately, because that's what it is. I mean, they're looking for great stories, true, but they also need to sell it. They're publishing houses are business, and they need to make money. So if your book's not marketable, they might give you direction on how to make it marketable. Add fairies, right? Add a werewolf vampire combo in there or something. But whatever it's going to take. So that'd be my don't.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and jump off that, and I'm gonna say don't take yourself too seriously.
Yeah.
Like, you're there, hang out, especially like, yeah, you're gonna be in all these breakout sessions and that kind of stuff, and you can take studious notes. But especially if the conference has got the like video available later, like, don't worry about it too much. You can go back and do it, be in the moment, and do the things at the physical conference that you can only do at the physical conference. Be around people, talk to them, engage, and just like, be comfortable being a goofy nutball that we all are. So it's cool.
Absolutely. Get autographs. It's fun.
This is very practical, and I don't think a lot of people has to worry about this, but don't get drunk. There's going to be a time where you're going to be highly social with folks and maybe go out somewhere, and a lot of places do sell alcohol, and if they're going down too well, you can break the first rule and become an ass. So definitely have that. If you're going to have it, really take it in moderation. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon, and that's it in the social networking as well. And I personally refrain at all costs, because I tend to go overboard whenever the drinks start going down too well, because I'm like, oh yeah, here we go, we're in it. But I tend to shy away from that, because you can really get yourself some precarious situations that way, and you can wind up saying something that you don't want to say to anyone, not just the wrong person, but any person. So I would say don't go there. Don't take any performance enhancing drugs either while you're writing. Because while we may want to take those caffeine pills to finish up the chapter before we hand it over to Steve Lobby for his acceptance, hopefully, you might not want to just fall flat on your face while you're talking to him either.
Yeah.
So
Amen.
don't go there if you can help it.
Don't go there.
Yeah, because we're there to make impressions, but not that kind of impression.
Yeah.
The floor.
Yeah, definitely not that.
That's funny.
Well, that's a perfect segue for my don't, which is don't gripe. By which I mean, if you go in and you know, present to a publisher or to an agent or anything like that, and you have, you know, not the experience that in your mind you imagined you would have, do not leave
Mhm.
there and
Mm.
start complaining about it or saying the things that you didn't like about that agent. Because at the end of the day, despite how many authors and writers there are out there, this industry is very, very small. And if
Mhm.
you have a bad experience and you go out and you tell everybody about it, then all the people that matter are going to know, and they're not going to want to work with someone who's, you know, willing to fly off the handle about something so small so quickly.
True.
So, you know, there's a time and a place for those kinds of conversations, and I don't think that the conference is one of them.
No, it's not. For Facebook is that's the perfect place
Yeah.
platform.
Isn't that
That's
what
what-
Twitter is for?
Twitter, Facebook, yeah, anything.
Just at them directly. It's fine.
Yeah, just attacking. Yeah, awesome. That's perfect. Yeah, that's great. That's
Yeah.
great.
There's more to add. We can easily add in sexual harassment as well. I
Yes.
remember Realmakers went out of their way to mention that that will
Mm.
not be tolerated
Mm.
because people do dress up for in costumes, and it's not
Yeah.
an invitation. I guess they've had that problem in the past, and that's sad. But that's in any venue as well.
Mhm.
So. And also, if you do experience some kind of harassment, I mean, let someone know, because again, this is supposed to be a big whole family of writers, and we're there for growth, and we're not there to feel belittled or small because of someone's actions. So
Right.
don't feel step forward if someone is bothering you in that way. If you can handle it on your own, like back off and they do so, that's
Mhm.
great. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's obviously been an issue in the past.
Mm.
Yeah, and I'll say just as a general conference or, convention, like if somebody's in a costume, etiquette is that you don't just like go up and touch. It's not an invitation, like you said. Like
Touch.
even if it's not like a sexual thing, like you don't just go up and touch somebody. That's like
Yeah.
not okay. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes we forget social cues when we're being weird, but hey,
Yeah.
you don't just go up and touch people in normal life. So
Yeah.
don't do it when they're
Yeah.
dressed up.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's falls under don't be an ass.
No touchy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does. Yeah.
Keep your hands to
As
yourself.
Cusco says, no touchy.
No touch.
It always makes me think of Jurassic Park, where he's like, "Why does she always have to touch everything?" I'm like,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right. Well, this has been a blast, Brian. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Mhm.
One more time, how can people find you?
I'm out there. I'm in the thing, Bryan Timothy Mitchell. You can find me on my website. I hope to do something on YouTube and more on Instagram and TikTok sooner or later. I have plans. I would announce them here, but I don't know if I'll have it ready in time. But if you want to see whatever it is that I do, I'm on Facebook, and I already mentioned my website, BryanTimothyMitchell.com. That is BryanTimothyMitchell.com. That's Brian with a Y. Why? I don't know, but it is a Y, and that's how it is. And you can find me. I'm there. I'm around.
All right. He's around. Please go find him. Please follow him and get that amazing book. What was the name of their title of your book?
Oh, we have Infernal Fall and
Fall.
Almost Paradise. Yeah.
Almost Paradise.
I
Right
have to
on.
actually look at them to remember now.
Yes.
I don't know why. It might be because of the time of day for myself right now.
It is.
That
I'm
is
so
fair.
sorry. Thank you for being with us at midnight.
Oh yeah, this is great. I'll do this all the time.
There you go.
But yeah, this is fun. So yeah, those are my books: Infernal Fall and Almost Paradise.
Okay. And they're available on Amazon or somewhere.
Amazon, Barnes Noble, number of other on-tail retailers, and a
Okay.
couple of local places around me who I please. Okay. I'll take a couple. Goodness.
You're fun. You were right across for me last year. Your room was right across from my room. We got to go out. We'll go this time. We'll go out and get. Are you going this year, Realmaker?
Oh yeah, I'm
All
gonna
right,
be
good.
there. I'm
All
gonna
right,
be hanging out.
We'll go.
Yeah,
hang out.
we'll have some lunch. We'll have some dinner.
Yeah.
We won't go overboard.
No, I can't drink. I have a bad liver, so
Yeah.
that's it. Anyways, that's enough about my body parts. We're going to talk about. We are happy to have you, Bryan. We'll have you again in the future. Thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
You're a blast and so fun and very knowledgeable. So everyone, don't forget to write and subscribe to our channels at the link below so you don't miss any of the Writers Room content. We always love to hear from our listeners. So if you have a question or a topic you want us to dive into, or any other questions about writers' conferences or your experiences, or you want to ask Bryan Mitchell why he has a Y in his name, write it down there. Get in touch with us. Get in touch with him. Until then, we'll see you later. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.
Later.